Yes.
Hello, good morning. Yuri, can you verify that I can be heard?
Yes, you can be heard.
Okay, all right. So, good morning to all of you. I would say welcome to Strathmore, but this is an online event. So anyway, welcome to Strathmore University. Welcome to this event organized by iBiz Africa. iBiz Africa is our incubator. We started it 11 years ago, and over this period, I think we are one of the leading institutions supporting young entrepreneurs in Kenya. Over this period, we over 800 or 900 companies have gone through the incubator, have received support in all the training events that we organize, all the business opportunities that they have. Well, today, through this event, we are going to discuss how you can grow, what strategy you can use in order to increase your business, in order to increase your visibility, in order to acquire funding. According to some information from these last few years, the level of funding that we are receiving in Kenya has decreased in the last year. And well, we all have experienced quite a number of challenges. Recently, it was COVID, then the post-COVID, well, post-COVID issues. Then our currency has been devalued. Now the currency is becoming stronger again. There are problems of taxes, there are problems of regulations. Well, I hope that in today's seminar, you will learn how you can address these challenges. More especially, maybe how can you grow your business with minimum funding? Okay, what type of strategies you can follow in order to begin acquiring business, in order to begin having visibility, in order to grow your activities into a level that then would attract more funding, will give you new opportunities, how you can establish collaborations. Among the panelists today, I see one of the first companies that we incubated. So maybe they can share with you what they did in order to, what is the strategy that they follow in order to be extremely successful in our local market. So, well, basically that has been the role of the incubator over all this period, just to support young entrepreneurs, like I suppose most of you are, and to give you experience, to give you ideas, and to give you support, okay? Through many of the activities that we organize, you can get that support, you can get these opportunities, you can get access to potential funders. Again, welcome to Strathmore, welcome to this webinar. And back to you, Michelle. I hope everybody will learn a lot from today's activity. Thanks. Bye to everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Sevilla. So by at least a show of their emojis below the screen, just your reaction. Sorry? Hello? So So thank you very much, Dr. Sevilla. At least by a show of reactions on the screen, I can see someone giving us a thumbs up. Thank you so much, Dr. Sevilla. He's the one who's been able to steer the incubation hub to what it is now. Founded 11 years ago, we've been able to mentor and be able to capacity build over 850 startups in different sectors. Now, on to our next speaker. I'd like to introduce and call upon Chris Dongo, the CEO of WYLDE International. Founded in 2004, it is an unmatched strategy and entrepreneurship farm. So the reason why we partnered with WYLDE is because we are trying to enable entrepreneurs, startups, and SMEs to be able to grow in these times. Chris, take it over.
Good morning. I hope you can hear me. I'd like
Yes, we can.
say, all right. I'd like to say thank you very much for inviting us to this webinar. I'd like to say that it's a pleasure to be doing this in partnership with Strathmore University. I think as a first point of contact, I would say that I am a Strathmore alumni, graduated there, and very excited. But the focus of today's conversation is really around scaling into Africa. And I'd like to, in a sense, just share a few thoughts from WYLDE International and how we began and why for us this conversation is important. I'd like to say that the first thing is that this conversation is important to us because the Y in WYLDE International stands for youth. And in our foundation, we were founded in 2004, and this year we are celebrating our 20th anniversary. And why this conversation is important is because when we were founded on the roots and on the belief that African young people can have an impact in the world. We asked ourselves, why is it that when you think about businesses or when you think about Africans and African businesses, we only seem to exist within our locations, either within Nairobi or within Mombasa or within Kampala. You know, we don't have businesses. If you think about the biggest business that has scaled across Africa from Kenya, we find organizations like Equity Bank. And even then, the big question really is, why aren't Kenyan banks in West Africa, for example? And yet we have West African banks here in Kenya. And beyond even that kind of thinking is to also even ask, why aren't Kenyan businesses in the UK? Why aren't Kenyan businesses in the US? And so WYLDE International was founded on the foundation of going against that grain and saying, we too can believe in ourselves, solve our problems, and not only solve our problems, but solve the problems of the world and position our businesses globally. Yeah, the president of Kenya is this June going to America to launch businesses in America. We know that Vivo is being opened; they're opening a store in New York, and that's a very big thing because we are coming to a place where we are challenging the status quo and saying it's not enough for you to just solve problems for the people in your location. You have to think bigger, you have to think globally, and you have to say, my product, my service is relevant for people out there. And so when WYLDE started, we started on that foundation. And in 2009, we launched a program which we called the Greatness Business Club. This program was themed from a one-man show to a global enterprise. We were asking entrepreneurs, should your biggest ambition, your biggest vision be to open a second branch, is to open a branch in Kampala, to open a branch in Dar es Salaam? Why can't your vision and your ambition be to have 1,000 branches in China? Why can't your vision and ambition be to have 5,000 branches in America? Because if you have that kind of thinking, then you begin to challenge yourself to set the structures, to set the foundations, and to set the systems that can take you there. And that's what WYLDE International has been doing. And even why we are calling ourselves WYLDE International was very deliberate. We are not just WYLDE Kenya. We are not just WYLDE Africa. We are WYLDE International. We are WYLDE Global. And one time somebody joked and said, I've arrived at WYLDE offices. I thought I was coming to see an international company because they were judging us from where we currently were. And I told them, no, we are an international company. If you come back 10 years from now, you'll indeed find us becoming international. And today, we are truly an international company because we have customers across the world. We have coached and provided business support services to entrepreneurs in countries like Suriname. We have coached and provided business support services to entrepreneurs in Germany, in London, in America. And today we are providing coaching and business support services to Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Zambia, and we are expanding our global footprint. And we are confident that as we continue this journey, we shall be able to get to a place where WYLDE International can have entrepreneurs in China. It's not inconceivable. And we want to challenge you that as you start your business and as you set, are you laying the foundations for greatness, or are you laying the foundations to remain a kiosk in Nairobi? And we want you to not remain a kiosk in Nairobi. We want you to be a truly global kiosk. Now, as I close, I want to say that even our sister company, Sandbox, is today opening branches in Berlin, in Addis Ababa, in Kampala, in Atlanta, in Nebraska. And we are very proud to be saying that we are truly, truly becoming a global company and a global outfit. And so I invite you to listen to the speakers, listen to the experience, but more importantly, to challenge your own mindset and to challenge your own thinking and to say, I am laying the foundations for greatness. I'm not laying the foundations for a kiosk. Thank you very much. And back to you, Michelle.
Wow. Let's just give that a round of applause. That's very impactful. Empower and just restructure your mind for greatness. As a startup, as an SME, you should be looking to, your vision should be big. And we all have, I believe that most of the startups and companies that have joined here, we have visions that are big. Given iBiz Africa, we provide services to clients in different parts of the world. And yes, now I'd like to introduce the panelists, now for the moment you've been waiting for. So I'd like to introduce our moderator for the day, and that is Jesse Muraya. He's the founder at Startinev, but he's also the innovation specialist at UNICEF. Welcome, Jesse.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. All right, Michelle, shall I take it away? All right. Guys, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you all for joining in today's session. So maybe even before I get started and introduce our panelists, maybe you can type on the chat, how are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 is I'm feeling very low. Today's a boring day. Or 10, I'm totally excited. I'm happy. Today's it's not raining, so it's good. 4, I see Joan. Okay, feeling a bit. Well in. Okay, all right. 5, we have a 5 from. We have a 7 from Momboy. We have a 7 from Caroline. Super. 8. That's the energy we like. 11. Wow. Okay. Jose Maria. I want to be on your level. All right. We have an 8. We have another 8 there. All right. Super excited. Yeah. Otherwise, thank you so much to the speakers who came in earlier, just to give a bit of a background of what we're expecting to hear from today. And I think this is a very, very important topic, given the fact that I know a lot of you have been hearing conversations around perhaps funding for startups going down over the recent past. We've seen some of our well-known Kenyan startups really not surviving the purge that has been happening over the past few years. But again, we've also seen several success stories. And I think, like Odongo was mentioning earlier, we're seeing some Kenyan businesses finally coming out and scaling across their borders. We've seen banks like Equity, for example, going to DRC. We've seen a lot of other organizations, Safaricom, going to to Ethiopia. So there's a lot of potential out there, and there's really a lot of hope in terms of how far we can be able to go. And I think in terms of startups and SMEs, we need to be able to start benchmarking ourselves to a level where we know that we can be able to reach those levels. But then again, I want to bring this conversation home. Sometimes some of us start to wonder, sometimes is scaling really all about scaling in terms of geographic location? Scaling could be in different ways and it means different things to different people. So to be able to discuss things around scaling strategies for African startups and SMEs, we have an amazing panel. And the amazing panel consists of our first speaker, who is Aiton Betts. Aiton is a co-founder. I hope I'm saying your name right. Right? Considering we've known each other for many years, but I don't think I've been able to say your name perfectly. But I can call you Betty. That's okay with you. Yeah. So we've got Bet, co-founder of Popping Gifts, and also one of the first founders coming out of iLab and Strathmore. So I think he really plays a very special position in this conversation today. Has over 15 years of diverse experience in e-commerce, digital marketing, retail, and communications. He holds degrees from both Strathmore University and Stanford. Mnasikia, Ivy League, Stanford University. Extensive knowledge and strategic acumen gained from Papink, where he's been at the forefront of innovation and also at the forefront of being able to drive a business along the lines that he's in. Our second speaker is Richard Wanjohi, Senior Manager at iLab Africa. So Richard, he guides the data science department, developing strategies for executive learning in data science and analytics, project management also for different data science projects, trainings, and customized programs. He additionally has he is additionally a highly experienced B2B business development professional with a track record of driving growth and revenue for organizations. With over 18 years of experience in market research, lead generation, and sales strategy, he has a deep understanding of B2B landscape in Africa and a proven ability to identify and pursue new business opportunities within the continent. So again, we're happy to have you with your 18 years of experience to this session. Our third speaker is Marion Cargo, venture partner at Jazza Rift Ventures. So again, we're happy to have somebody from the venture capital space. So some of you who are looking for funding, I don't know, Marion, are you writing checks today? Marion is a venture partner at Jazza Rift, venture capital value creation and advisory on a part-time basis, offering specialized advisory and value creation services to startups and entrepreneurs who are looking to invest and scale in digital health, medtech, and biotech innovation space. And finally, our final speaker is Lois Masharia, strategist at WYLDE International. She's a skilled professional who's dedicated to helping business founders navigate the challenging sector of entrepreneurship. She's an entrepreneur, business strategist, and certified business coach. As a lead strategy consultant, she has a privilege to work with SMEs in varying business stages from different regions and sectors. As an entrepreneur herself, it's not all talk. She understands the challenges and opportunities that come with building and growing a business. So our approach to entrepreneurs delivers practical insights and applications to give them the tools they need to succeed in today's competitive landscape. So everyone, I'd like you to just give a virtual round of applause for our panelists. So today's session is going to be a very interactive session. So by interactive, I mean, let's try and bounce off some of these conversations along each other. To our guests and to our audience, again, if something is really burning, please type it in the chat and we'll be happy to allow you to speak or be able to put in your questions, and we'll ensure that it is brought out clearly by our panelists. Beyond that, if you're not speaking, kindly just mute your microphone so that we can be able to hear some of the valuable things that our speakers will be talking about. Yeah, otherwise, without further ado, let's get started. And first of all, even before I get started, I'd like to ask the audience also just to go on your chat one more time and just see what you want to hear today, first of all. So even before I start asking the questions, let me get a few ideas going. What would you like to hear today? So that even as the speakers answer some of the questions that we have, we also do know that there are certain things that we want raised. So again, I'll just give it about 30 seconds. Just type what you're looking forward to hearing today. All right. Okay, somebody is curious about pharmacy. And again, I think Marion from Jazza Rift Ventures does have experience in medtech. So that's good for you, Stacy. Yeah. Others, let me get with my first question. And this goes to Aiton from Papink. Okay, so we hear the word bootstrapping. To be honest, for me, the first time I heard what that word was, I didn't know I'd been doing it all my life. Okay, but please, from your own experience as an entrepreneur, please explain what bootstrapping is. Could you also share your journey about scaling while bootstrapping, if you have been able to do that, and some of the valuable lessons you've learned along the way? Aiton, this is to you.
Thanks, Jesse. So bootstrapping is literally just a sustainable way of growing your business by reinvesting your earnings and your profits back into it and making it a bigger business, essentially. So bootstrapping is hard, and for the 90% of the businesses in our market, and since I think the start of businesses in Kenya, that has been the major way of business success. And one of the bigger problems we had when we came to bootstrapping is if you're going to need to start a business, then you're going to need the right bankings, you're going to need all those things. So if anyone is going to finance your business, the first three things they're going to ask you: how's your bank statement looking like? Do you have any collateral? Do you have any property you can guarantee? And of course you don't. That's why we're getting into business, right? So we decided, through my experience and then in thinking the last 11 years, we got into 3 steps of generally how you bootstrap a normal business. And the first step when your business is starting is self-funding. Believe me, you're not going to have to quit your day job or your part-time job as fast as possible. You're going to need some seed money, whether it's 100 bob or 1,000 bob, to get your first stock, to get yourself rolling. This might be a loan from family or friends. This might be a helpful push from someone who knows you. It doesn't have to be significantly a large amount, but it's just what gets you on your way. And it could also be from your job. So many people have been working and then they've started their businesses. Stage 2, your business is growing and you can afford to rent your first office, you can afford to get your own funds, getting funds from your customers, and you're using these funds to grow your business, and you're using these funds to slightly get to a situation where people can see you and say, hey, this is a business, even if you're probably the main person doing everything. And lastly, stage 3 is credit. So this is a hard part for most people, because again, if you go to the bank when you're in stage 3 and you're asking them for credit, they're going to ask you, okay, give us land. Do you have a commercial property? We'll give you this money right away. But then again, if you had it, you wouldn't be in business, right? So the point being, at this point in time, there are very many options. You could look at things like SACCOs. SACCOs have done well for so many people. Personally, I'm one of the beneficiaries of SACCOs. They give the lowest interest rates in the market, and they'll be able, and the form of guaranteeship, you could be guaranteed by your colleagues, and you could get a little boost to start, so that when your finances are right and your bankings are right, you can go back to the bank and say, hey, my business is this size now. You can now guarantee me. So to be honest, that's the basic way of getting through. Other people talk to me about getting equity, but a friend of mine likes to say, would you be okay having someone in your bedroom the whole time? If not, then equity is just like that. It's getting another partner to be with you at your whole time. And it may not be the easiest thing. So to be honest, SACCOs, money markets, you could even come up with a proposal. I mean, there's so many Kenyans nowadays investing in money market funds to get 18%, 16%. Everyone is looking for a place to invest. Why not create your business as a proposal and tell someone, look, if you give us this money within this year, we'll give you this 3%, we'll give you 18%, we'll give you 19%. It's better. Of course, it has to be someone who trusts you and knows you, but at the end, it'll be able to give you the push to be able to get the right bankings. And then when you're more of a formal business, you could get to a bank, you could get, there's even venture capitalists. All these companies would then be interested with you because you now have a formal structure. So that's my micro bootstrapping 101, Jesse. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, thanks for that. And you've mentioned quite a few interesting things around things like thinking when outside the box, good circles and other places. But given that you're one of the main, or if like the principal founder within this panel of ours, forgive me if I delve a bit too deep into some of the questions I'm going to be asking you. But now I want you to maybe just give us a bit of perspective also from your own experience at Papink. Did you start with 10 million in the bank? Or did you have a rich uncle who came in and, said, you know what, you just do whatever it is. So just give us a bit about your own personal experience, if you don't mind.
Oh, so thanks. Our own personal experience was first, we did not start with 10 million. Oh, I wish. we were university students at Strathmore, and that's why we're so close to the university. I think we were in our second year and second semester. We had around 1,000 bob between the both of us founders. And we started buying things from town and reselling to students in class. So hardly. And the first step for us was to slowly get some traction. So I remember I used to tell people all our stock used to fit in a bag at that point in time. So it started very small. We were able to get, so as we were starting, we put ourselves out into organizations like this, into the iBiz lab. And through the iBiz lab, we actually were able to secure a grant. Now, this was, I think, in the third year. And we were able to get a grant for 500,000 shillings. This was to help you register your business, support, and everything. So as we grew, and we were investing 99% of our earnings back. I feel we were a bit privileged then because we were students, so you don't have a lot of responsibilities. Then after that, as we continued, is when I talked about my personal experience of joining a SACCO. I had a big problem because at the point, banks simply didn't want to give us any funding. And the amount of funding they would give us at that point in time, the amount of funding a bank would give you as unsecured would be 1 million. That's the total. And 1 million is just not enough. And the interest rates they would hike on that is a crazy amount. So what we had to do was join a SACCO, and I joined it slowly. I didn't even think it would actually help me. And when we joined at first, put some savings, and what SACCOs will normally give you is 3 times to 5 times your savings, as long as you have some people to guarantee. So this was a foreign concept, and my parents actually introduced me to this, and a lot of traditional people have done this. And the first time I borrowed and we got our guarantees, we were like, wow. So we were able to plug this into the business, use it to grow. And then after that, we were able to refinance. So for the bigger stage of early business and starting up, it was SACCO. It's not as glamorous, but that really worked for us. Thanks, Jesse.
Right, awesome. Thanks, Aiton. Because the truth of the matter is a lot of first-time founders sometimes shy away from loans. But then again, I think you've given your true success story in terms of they actually do work, especially if you do understand your business already. And I'm sure perhaps Lois or Richard can speak to that later on in terms of even some of the benefits of looking into credit. And I also like that you mentioned that you invested 99% of your earnings. So again, what the key lesson there is that, you know, all of it should not go to salaries, for example, because at the end of the day, like you're saying, you didn't have a lot of expenditure. Then again, also, I'm also do understanding that some people also do have certain personal expenditures or expenses that they have. So again, just remembering the key point around looking towards investing a lot of what you're earning back into the business. Yeah, otherwise, thanks for that, Aiton. We'll go to our next question, and that will be addressed towards Marian. So a key thing is, we know that not all businesses are designed to scale at the same pace. So you do have businesses that, you know, for example, you hear some startups like Twigger Foods, for example, were built in a model where perhaps they're built to scale to access lots of funding so they can be able to grow their footprint. But from your own perspective, what types of businesses should consider pursuing venture capital to support their scaling efforts, and what businesses should not? So that a lot of times, I think startups or businesses or SMEs may waste a bit of time looking for funding in the wrong sources, and their business is not really meant for that kind of source. So can you please speak to that for the sake of some of the founders that are listening today?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jesse. And I think I'll relate to what Beth was also speaking to. It depends with the level that your business is in. What stage are you in when you are looking at what area that you want to get your funding from? Venture capitalists often like high growth potential businesses with very scalable models, you know, models that there is a lot of expansion, rapid growth, high market potential markets is what venture capitalists are looking to invest in, sustainable with a high return of investment. Because if I'm a VC and I want to invest in your business, I'm looking for a return after 7 years. So when you are looking for funding, you are in 7 years, will I be able to give a return on investment to this person? Again, relating to what Beth has said, you are evaluating if it's on terms of loan. Are you able to repay this loan? Are you able to pay the interest rates? Are you EBIT positive to be able to pay the interest? So you are looking also at your bottom line and the stage you are in. And I think if you are very early stage, then you're asking yourself, instead of going to a VC like Jazarift, will you look for angel investors, people who can give you the expertise, can make introductions to you, people who are not even probably looking for equity in return. I know Western countries have gone far ahead ahead of Africa in that, because you hear a lot of startups that started with angel investors who are family. I am proud of what Strathmore is doing, because others, it's their universities who invested them early on as angel investors. So I think those are the different areas you look at. If you are not high growth potential, I'm answering to which investors should not look for VCs. VCs are also looking a lot of innovation, a lot of tech. Are you able to use tech and innovation to grow and grow in a leaner model? So those are the areas you can look at your business. What is your model? What is your growth rate if you look at your financial models to see where you get your investment from?
All right. Thank you. And I'm glad that you mentioned a business model in terms of figuring that out and how it's going to get you from point A to point B to point Z within your scaling journey. And I think that moves up to our next question, which will be going to Lois of WYLDE International around scalable business models. What do you how do you term what a scalable business model is, and how are you able to navigate that as a startup that has just started right now, but you need to figure out, okay, how do I get to this point? How do I get to a point whereby I'm moving on from angel investor to VC? Yeah, so maybe you can be able to give us some of the insights from either your own experience as a founder, but also from some of the experiences in terms of some of the founders or businesses that you have consulted with.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jesse. When it comes to scalable business model, what Marion is alluding to is a matter of asking what value am I providing in the market? And not just the value, you need to answer, how am I going to generate a revenue from this value that I am given? If you do not understand that yourself, then it would be even harder for you to speak to, Marion, to speak to any other sort of investors, yeah, and like the circles and the banks, which are just looking at your cash flow and what else you have to provide. So then the question is, then how do you then build up a scalable business model? First thing is to differentiate between the need and a solution. So you need to ask yourself, is your business speaking to a need, or is it just speaking to a solution? Yeah, so most are the times that entrepreneurs or funders come in with a lot of solutions in the market without really considering what is it actually solving in the market. I'll give an example. Perhaps even right now, even as we were thinking, when you're trying to differentiate a need to a solution, think about the evolution of listening to music. Yeah. We started with, the large disc, moved on from the large disc, had the cassettes where, you'd choose with a pen, moved to CD, Walkman, all that has changed with time. And right now we're looking at Spotify, Apple Music. Yeah. So in differentiating that is when you come in and you are talking about, offering a sort of another solution, you need to ask yourself, what is the actual need in the market? Why is the evolution happening? Why are people changing? You need to respond to that need. That is the first thing when it comes to just building a scalable business. You need to ask yourself, what is the actual need and what are the different ways I can solve this need in the market? What are the different ways people have done it? They say there is no new idea under the sun. It's sort of true. It's just a roll up of what people have been doing. So just look into the market, research in the market. What have people done before? What are the potential ways that people are going to do it even in the future? I like the story of the Apple CEO, and when they chased him from the business and they were still unable to move the business forward, it's because this guy understood the need. Then they understood the solutions that they were putting out. Yeah, but this guy understood the need, understood what he needed to do to get the market. So then the next thing, even if that is now understanding how will my solution now generate, revenue? What are the different touch points that I can develop and charge in the market and actually generate a revenue from this? Once you answer those two questions, then you are good to go in terms of now understanding then who is your target market, how do I segment my target market, how do I communicate this value to my target market. And perhaps if I could touch on a bit on the target market, something that I have seen when building business model with entrepreneurs and founders is that people like to generalize a lot. Founders like to generalize their target markets, that maybe my client is just hospitals or students or business people. But who are these people? When you look categorically at what you're offering, you need to segment your target market based on the demographics, based on the location, based on the behavioral patterns. You need to understand how your potential client moves. Because it's only when doing that you can actually understand, how do I actually deliver value to these people? We might be in the same business, but how I'm moving and how another person is moving, totally different. So you need to understand the actual behavioral patterns for your target market, segment them, and then now communicate to them effectively based on how they move. Yeah.
And first of all, you give a reference here around cassettes and CD players, and I'm sure half of the audience does not understand what you're talking about. But anyway, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I want to ask another follow-up question, even before I move to Richard. And this is something a lot of people ask often. At what point should you consider scaling geographically? I was working in Nairobi, now I want to move to another county. I was working in Kenya, now I want to move towards Uganda and wherever. Because we've seen a number of startups that have, I know we can debate about this. For example, I know MarketForce, we did have the founder coming out recently saying that scaled too quickly and whatnot. But at what point should you consider scaling geographically or beyond the borders that you operate in? And anyone else who has an answer to that also beyond Lois, feel free to answer.
All right. Okay. So first, one of the critical questions you need to answer is, with us moving to a new location, what does that really solve? Is it that people are actually asking for it? Is it that we have a market that is, and we are doing deliveries and we're unable to do that anymore, and it's just cheaper for us in terms of our operation cost to have or move to that point? Is it that there is more potential if we move to a new location or just introduce our business in a new location? You need to understand what your why for moving, your reason for wanting to make that move at that time, understand what it is you'll be solving by moving. And part of it is just even in understanding how does this affect the business? Yeah, how will this affect the business? Are we financially healthy to move? Are our processes optimized in such a way that we can handle different locations? Do we have a qualified and a skilled team to actually help us in running these businesses? Or is it that if we open, then we'll be, chewing more than we can, or biting more than we can chew? Yeah, so you need to really understand your why, and then now look internally to your financial health, to your operational efficiencies, to your team and how skilled your team is. Yeah, so those are the key areas I'd say you just have to prioritize, but always start with the why.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for putting that. Yeah. Sorry, Marian, you have something to add or bet as well?
Yeah, maybe to chip into what Lois is saying, in total agreement with her, is we have seen people move to scale and replicate the mistakes they were doing in their current country. You have not dominated where you are. You have not exhausted the opportunities, the processes, what is working, what is not working. You have not unpacked it. And unfortunately, the cash flow or the burn, you just use it in, rapid expansion without really dominating your current space. So the asking of why are we moving? What do we want to attain? What are the lessons we have learned from this? And totally understanding that regions are very different. The business environment in Kenya may not be the same in Rwanda or Tanzania, though we are in the East African community. So you really need to spend time on the why and what do I expect, and that space that Lois was speaking about.
All right, Bet, situation kwa ground, tell us.
I liked Jesse, just a minute ago, you used live examples. You talked about market force. Maybe we can add a couple more. There's Sandy. So currently we are at a space where we were seeking investment and we got to talk to two partners. So when you become a certain size, you can either talk to venture capital or you can talk to private equity. And in these two sides, I found completely different.
Sorry, I think we've lost Bet for a second there. All right, let's give him a few seconds. You will be able to get him back. All right, I think we're still frozen. So we'll put a pin on that. I think you're just talking about the difference between venture capital and private equity. So as we wait for Bet to come back on, I'd like us to move to Richard from iLab Africa. There are a lot of buzzwords we've been talking about of late. You hear buzzwords like, hashtag AI, hashtag ChatGPT, IoT, and a lot of pitches will begin like that. Hi, my name is Jesse. I'm a founder of XYZ. I run an AI tech company that does XYZ. So according to you, what role do you see technology plays in scaling businesses and startups? And how important is it in terms of where it falls within the whole business model of what you do or what a startup does?
So thank you, Jesse, for the question. And thank you for allowing me to be part of this distinguished panel. I can see some familiar faces, Beth, Marion, and also Chris from WYLDE. So to answer your question, technology for me is an enabler of the business. So what are you looking at here? You're streamlining operations. So if, for example, your operations were, written copy, or you're doing a lot of writing and physical copy, you do a bit of tech and you're able to translate that into digital platforms. Secondly, enhancing the consumer or customer experience. What have we seen a shift, especially in the financial and banking space? Almost every bank has a mobile app or has an online, online banking. Because again, you don't want to lose your customer base by strictly having them come to your branches. So you have to enable and enhance their customer experience. Third is making data-driven decisions. Sorry, it's a bit of a mouthful. So what are we saying is that you want to look at how can I collect this data from the point of I know my customer, so I'm able to profile them. This is Richard, he's this age group, he has a family, this is demographic, this is how he spends, and then you're able to profile and make decisions as far from the data that you are able to collect. Fourth is improving efficiency. Again, just like I said with the online banking for financial institutions, I don't need to go to my local bank. I don't even remember the last time I went to my local bank or branch to seek financial services. I get online, I use the mobile application, and you improve my efficiency, and I'm able to transact and improve my offering as well as a customer. So the different ways tech plays a role for startups is one. If, for example, you're looking at AI and machine learning. So, for example, there is a local SME that we are working with or about to get into partnership with. And what are they doing? They want to predict the behavior of their current customers. So they are looking at what is their consumer buying behavior? What are the market changes that I can look out for? What are the different seasons that I can be able to predict and say, this is going to be a low season or this is going to be a high season? So using that technology to be able to automate and personalize those experiences, but also gain valuable insights as a business. Secondly, you look at examples of cloud computing. I don't need to have all these platforms domiciled in my office. So what do? I work with the cloud. And there are so many solutions in that space. So you're able to do your emails, you're able to have your records in the cloud. You're able even to automate some of the creative and stuff that you're doing, trying to enhance your product development. So you use the cloud to be able to improve those efficiencies, but also reduce on the costs, both as a business and also in terms of expenses. But data, you're able to analyze actionable insights from that data. If you're using analytics, you're able to do your dashboards, you're able to look at the customer profiles, you're able to see the seasonality or the trends that are happening in the market vis-a-vis what the business is looking out for. Automation, again, big on automation, because you don't want to reduce your productivity, one, from an employee perspective or also from a startup perspective. Secondly, you also want to improve your efficiencies and have a better offering as compared to your competition. Finally, it's just collaboration, because then what you're doing, you don't exist in an ecosystem alone. And I'll give you the example, maybe this is not a startup, but already an established business. If you look at what the recommendations from the Revenue Authority had happened in the last, I think, 3 months, is that for beer consumers or beer manufacturers, they were supposed to do some invoicing, or I think there was a regulation that they were supposed to share some data, I think some form of taxation after they make the sales in the market. But what they requested is that give us lead time, one, because some of the customers take these products on credit. So, what lead time can we have? 30 days, 60 days, then within that time period, then we'll be able to remit that tax. And then that enables our business to be able to do the logistics. So it's looking at your business and what collaboration can you have, one, with your tech partners, two, with the regulators, because the regulators, the minute you get into business and you start making revenues, they will be on your case. I think that's it from now.
All right. Thanks, Richard. And I like how you started the conversation, just talking about tech being an enabler. Really, and not it's not the means to an end. It's basically something that enables you to be able to get your business moving forward and improve efficiency. You mentioned quite a number of aspects. But also now I want you to speak to also now founders who've just gotten started, SMEs and businesses. We've just seen somebody here, for example, who runs, I think it's Chef Joanne. People with diverse sorts of businesses. Do I need to have a data scientist, a computer scientist, engineers, so that I can be able to leverage some of these tools? You just mentioned AI and how that's able to help somebody be able to understand their customers better. So yeah, maybe you can speak to that.
Thank you, Jesse, for that question. And again, I'll go back to the last point I just mentioned, collaboration. If you're a startup and your core business is not data analytics, why do you want to get into data analytics and do it as a business? So what you do, you look for partners, you look for institutions. So for example, at iLab or iBiz, we give you that environment where you're able to get either an established database of data analytics, analysts, or AI and machine learning specialists. So they'll be able, one, to advise you. Secondly, they might also partner with you and build that business. Third is that you'll be able to learn from someone who's done it before. You don't need to go into that process that you learn, suffering the cost, and a lot of revenue is chipped away because you decided you want to undertake this. And that's what happened even to established businesses. Your business is providing a solution to the market. So if, for example, you're a chef or you're doing catering business, that is your core business. Leave the data analytics to someone else or sublet them and have them meet once or twice in a week. Give them the sort of expectations that you have. They develop your dashboards. Then you're able to access that from a remote area. Then you're able to see what trends am I looking at? What's my high season, or during the weekend? What are the best times to do my internal catering? What events can I look out for maybe in another 2 or 3 weeks? That is then how you're able to build a business and eventually become bigger and mainstream your business. Secondly, do not get into something just because everyone else is doing it. What does the business require? Does it require data analysis? Maybe not. Maybe you need, first of all, to raise your funds. Maybe you need to improve your operations. Then once you're able to improve the basics of the business, then now you can get into technology, and that will enable your efficiencies and your operations to run smoothly.
All right, thanks. I like how you put it. I mean, don't take a Panadol for a headache that's not yours. So really don't try and get into a business where it's not really your core. And true, I think partnerships, we've seen a lot of people even joining hands with either people or organizations that are able to provide some of these technology services from a partnerships point of view. So thank you so much. Beth, I see you're back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perhaps
okay, let's go to Lois, then we can.
Yeah. I could just add to what Richard has mentioned, especially on focusing on what matters for your business. Yeah. As we work with entrepreneurs and startups here at WYLDE, we encounter a lot of them that they want to do everything, and go with the trends and follow the hype that is there. But one of the things that we help our entrepreneurs, or rather we take them through, is just identifying the critical, or rather the key success factors, just identifying what is it that we need to achieve right now. Yes. So what will it take for us to achieve that? A step at a time. So you have to ask yourself, as a startup, with where we are right now and what we have and where we want to go, what will it take for us to do this? And majority might come up with a huge list, but if you find that you have and you're a startup and you have 5 key success areas or 10 key success areas that you need to focus, then perhaps that won't work very well for you, because I'm saying, startups have lean teams. So you want to ensure that the efforts that you put in the business are efficient and are effective for what you need to do for the business. And I like, yes, collaboration, because then with Richard's points on collaboration, then this means that you don't have to do everything, and you'll focus on what matters. So collaborate with experts, get pay for that 1-hour consultation session, take advantage of the platforms that are available for you to collaborate with other industries, to just get to learn, so that you as a startup, as a founder, your main focus should be how do we get to the next steps? What do we do for the next steps? Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Lois. People, I mean, that's take advantage of this session. That's free advice from Lois. I'm sure they would have charged you an arm and a leg to be able to be told about key success factors and actually how you work backwards towards achieving your goals and objectives. Yeah, so I want us to jump back to Beth. There was a very interesting conversation happening earlier before technology did its thing. And you were talking about the difference between private equity and venture capital, and you know how you evaluated the two decisions.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think what we were saying was so hot, technology had to get rid of us. But you find I mean, at the core of it, VCs, I know we have a nice venture partner here, and PEs are businesses. They're also in it for themselves. They're here to make money. That's the core of it. And they have two structural ways in which they make money. I have friends who've gotten a lot of investment for VCs. When you're talking about Market Force, Sandy, we started with all those guys. And they've been able to scale. VC has given them crazy amounts of money to build ideas. But to some extent, I also have friends who've worked with private equity. When you're looking at Naivas, when you're looking at QuickMart, when you're looking at Nairobi Women's Hospital. And the core difference that I noticed between the two was, for one, VC wants you to scale. So if you have a very good tech idea and you feel you can deploy it against the whole of Africa really quickly, VC is the best for you. Also, VC goes early stage. VC will take you when you have 0 to 100,000 USD revenue in a whole year. Small. They'll take your idea. They'll work with you. PE, private equity, on the other hand, will only come to you if you're making above $4 million, $5 million. They'll want you to stay. They're very profit oriented. They'll be like, if it's Kenya is doing good for you, let's stick to Kenya. Let's open branches all over Kenya. But the also other difference is private equity also pays you. So you find people get something like a cash out. You'll find the founders being paid for the work they've put into creating a profitable business. I know that may not be the case with everyone, but that's the experience a lot of local founders have. So in my opinion, I feel a lot of people, and I've seen even Jose Maria saying people don't do due diligence on VCs. You see big money, but I think we also need to decide what's the best fit for our business. I know at the time when you're bootstrapping and looking for money, you're desperate and you're saying anything goes. When a big person is interested in you and they're throwing around a lot of big figures. But if I can fast forward the story, I know very many founders who've created huge businesses, millions, and they've collapsed and they've come back home with nothing. So why would you hurry to get that money if at the end of the day, all we're going to see is a couple of posters about you and then down to starting again from scratch, from ground zero? So it's better to wait and take your time and really see what would be the best for you and then move forward with that. That's on my end, yeah.
All right, and I like that you've mentioned the differences between the two, and I think one thing that came out clearly is the fact that you do need to build value for yourself, for your own startup, for your business, so that you'll have more options in terms of being able to choose what direction you take or which kind of investments that you can be able to take on board, and you're not desperate. And I think that really drives that point home. And I don't know, and a good example I like to give is, I don't know whether you've all heard of Zoho. It's an Indian, based off India, for those who don't know. And again, they've reached unicorn status, over $1 billion in terms of valuation, but without a single dollar from venture capital or from investment. It was all, from the bootstraps. So again, it can be done. So you can imagine right now, if you're going to get any further investment, again, they'd be talking big bucks, big dollars, in terms of what they'd be bringing in, because they've already shown that there's value. They've been able to show that they can get X amount of revenue within a given period. So again, it really helps to build value. So even before I move to the next set of questions, I'd like to go through some of what our audience has mentioned on the chat platform. So again, maybe also just giving a bit of a, I'll just read them out anyway. I see Stacy here. I was talking about, she's starting in digital tech in pharmacy. Again, we have John Ocheche. What is the main reason that prevents our startups from internationalizing? I think that's a good point that we can bring. I don't know who wants to answer that. I love that one. Who wants to answer John Ocheche on that? I don't know if Marion or Richard.
I can give it a shot.
You want to give it a shot? Awesome. We like people who can give it shots.
So I believe for any business, first of all, appeal to your local market, exhaust or meet the demand within your local market, Once you're able to do that, then now you can go regional, go international. The challenge is that you want to appear big by going regional, but what are your revenue models like? Are you appealing to the market? And I think Marion alluded to this when she started with her opening remarks. If, for example, you're appealing to the East African market, the nuances within each of the countries is different. Kenya has a different market. If, for example, it's FMCG, the regulation is different. If you go to Uganda, the same. Tanzania, the same. If you go to Congo, DRC, totally different nuance. So what are you appealing to first within the local market? If you're able then to meet and satisfy that market, then now you can expand to the horizons, country by country, but also very nimbly.
Okay, yeah. Okay, let's assume people have met those metrics. Okay, what's stopping them from going international? Why I'm asking that we see a lot of Nigerian, South African startups and businesses coming to knock at our doors here in Kenya, but are we knocking at their doors? We see them scaling to Western markets. Again, are we doing the same thing, assuming that we've been able to reach that level?
I think I can give a try as well. And I agree with you, Richard. I think the other aspect is Kenyans, are we aggressive enough? Are we risk takers enough? I think I've worked with a lot of startups that are not owned by Kenyans. And what I have noted is aggressiveness. They are very, very, very aggressive, and they are risk takers as well. I think the other thing is team. You really need to have a team that is really aligned to your business plan and have the expertise to build a very strong launchpad or foundation that you dominate locally, and then they are able to take you out. I think the other limitation could be funding as well. It is being in the space, it's also fair to say that funding for African-owned ventures is not as much as the funding that goes to outside Africa as well. So there are different aspects. I think we need to be more aggressive. I think it's Chris in his opening remarks from where he was speaking of scaling outside of Kenya, scaling outside of our space. Let us be bold enough, but having worked on the base and the foundation that Lois and everybody has worked on, the next step is be bold enough, take the risk, and then look for funding that will not burn you down, because unfortunately is rapid expansion. As you expand, are you expanding rapidly? Are you having controlled expansion? Are you looking at all your numbers? Are you having the broader picture so that then you don't expand and then we hear your good idea has come down? I don't know whether that's helpful.
Yeah, super. No, I think that's super helpful. I think true, we do need to be take bigger risks, of course, controlled. And again, you mentioned something important about the team and the culture, then also around funding. So I think that also spoke to what Chris had mentioned earlier on around just just being able to take that first step. And there are also other ways of doing it depending on the kind of business that you have. So for example, even as starting, fine, we've operated in places like Uganda and Rwanda, but then again, those are controlled risks. Those are, for example, without having to actually get any full-time staff there. You go there, operate on a project basis, come back, and you would learn about the market like that until you're at a point whereby you can actually be able to put boots on the ground to those areas. So there are different ways to go about that, and I'd like that you mentioned that. So again, this is also just an encouragement to everyone that you should not shy away from some of these steps. Otherwise, the markets will be eaten by other players.
Sorry, I'd love to throw a curveball in this international experience.
Please, it's an interesting conversation.
So I'll just mention two problems. I know we always, Kenyans are risk averse. I've seen that on the comment section. I agree. However, has anyone talked about the amount of South African companies that expand to Kenya then close up within a year? Because there are a lot, right? So I tend to feel that we are always talking about this, but if you look at the inverse and you look at other countries as examples, they're going through it when they're trying to get into a market. Would I say Kenya is a weird market or without structures like many of the other African countries? No, I tend to feel we're a beautiful market, but still you find they take it rough. The other example I'd like to put forward is of Kenyan tech companies when they went to West Africa. They complained about two significant things. Number one is the language barrier. I remember talking to some technology and logistics firms that were in Ivory Coast, and they said, there you have to learn French, it's French. Number two is the money, is that even if they made money in those markets, unless you're thinking of getting a house in Ivory Coast and now living there, repatriating that to Kenya had always two effects, had the effect of it's very hard because of the currency. And then number two, when it comes here, Times Tower will smile at you and also levy the same. So they had those difficulties, and I don't know whether our other partners could shed light on that, because even when you're telling me to become a global company, then you're telling me to open in Ivory Coast, then I'm paid in francs, then I cannot bring the francs here. Unless I start another family there, it's going to be a bit tricky transferring anything.
All right, thanks for being that divergent view. And again, that was mentioned by Marion when you talk about things like culture, really, and also understanding the systems. And again, that takes time. It's not a one-day thing. You can imagine right now, by the time Equity Bank started achieving, the success it's having, for example, in foreign markets, it took a while. So you can imagine there's still some markets like South Sudan and others that are still struggling with organizations like that. However, there are places like DRC where they had to go in fast and do an acquisition. And again, it's really, it's not a one-day thing. And I think it's something that we can start to learn, and it's good that there's a lot of push now for African integration through the Africa Free Trade, that one, ACFTA. And other agreements that are helping in promote that across the continent. And I know Strathmore and other organizations also have been engaging in such conversations. So I'd like to move on also as we are still going through some of these questions. I see somebody talked about they wanted to know how to take the first step as an entrepreneur and insights from experience. I think Bet was able to highlight that. What is Marion interested in while looking to fund SMEs? Yeah, good one. Marion, in terms of SMEs, do you fund SMEs? And if so, what do you look for? Or if not, then why? Why not?
Yeah, I think I would speak to the aspects that we look for any, be it an SME, be it a startup. One is the market. Is your business able to capture a large percentage of the market? Remember, we spoke of VCs, its high growth potential and scalable. So we are looking at the market. How many players are in the space? What are you doing differently to capture a large percentage of the market? Ideally, can you be able to grow revenue to 2x or 3x in a year? So the whole aspect of market and revenue. To again, team is very, very important. In this SME or business you are setting up, what kind of skill set are you having around you? Because remember, I think Lois mentioned that you are not the only one probably in this service or offering this product. So how is your team equipped? What is the expertise you have in your team to be able to bring this idea, this SME to fruition and convince us that this can be able to work? I think the other one is the product market fit. Unfortunately, we have seen so many products or things. What are you bringing in? Are the user, do the users want it? Is somebody willing to monetize or pay something for the product you are bringing in the market? Or is it just a nice idea? Will people pay for whatever you want to bring in? I think scalability, we can't overemphasize that, because again, you are looking for 30% improvement year by year, and you are looking to see that if you invest in this SME or in this business, after 7 years, can I return a bare minimum 5x of what I put in your business? So those are the areas to look at, from exit strategy, Remember, if a VC is investing in you, again, there is exit. Are you able to either be acquired? Unfortunately, here we don't have many businesses that go into Nairobi Stock Exchange or the capital markets. So it's a lot of acquisition and all that. So it's looking across all the different aspects of the business. How are you positioning yourself for the market, the team, the product, the scalability? Are you building something that can stand? And I think it will not only apply for VCs, but any other source of funding. These are factors that you need to look into.
All right, thanks. Thanks. Yeah, you bring, I mean, scalability, I think the number of times we've had that today. Product market fit, again, how aligned is your product to what the market really requires, and even are you solving a specific needs? And also, again, that brings a point that was mentioned earlier around, I mean, these people, and investors are there to make money. They're not there to give you a grant or to give you charity. So unless your business is also not looking to make money, then that means it's a social either enterprise or it's a non-profit, and you go for funding elsewhere. So yeah, Lois, are you burning to say something?
Yes. Agreeing,
Okay, please.
with what Marion is saying. And just to add on to that, we have seen businesses that are able to do that, they have identified, what it is that they are doing, they've identified their markets, but communication is where the problem is. They're not able to communicate this value, they're not able to communicate to the VCs, they're not able to communicate to the market. They have the idea, they have built a fantastic model to it, but the question is, why are they still not generating revenue? So as a founder, as an entrepreneur, you have to know how to communicate your product to different or to the person standing in front of you. How I communicate to Marion about one particular product is perhaps not the same way I'll communicate to Richard. They might be the same product, but they're all looking for different things. So you have to quickly identify what the person in front of you is looking for, wanting to achieve with what you're offering, and know how to best communicate. So this is to say that you need to develop a value proposition, for your business. And you could have different products, you could have different services that have different value propositions. So you don't necessarily just have to have one. You need to just look at your product and what it's speaking towards and develop a value proposition that is client facing. Most of the value propositions that we see are very inward facing, to the business. We know what we do, we know we are the best in this, but a value proposition should be client facing. As your client, I need to see, okay, this is the product, and this is how I'm going to benefit from your product or your service. So yes, it's good to have specific words or a brand voice that you're using, and not buzzwords. Not buzzwords, not the AI, the tech, we are a tech. Communicate with the actual thing that you are offering.
I'm glad that you're answering that. I'd like to go to the next question, which is around a lot of times we think the only means to actually building and scaling our business is funding, external funding. But beyond that, how can you leverage networks, partnerships, community, all that to be able to actually achieve the same objective of growth and scale, but without capital injection? Any things that you've seen, either other businesses or yourself, that have worked? And anyone else can also answer that if you also do have some experience.
Okay, sure. It's good to leverage on partnerships, yes, community engagements, as you say, but first it starts with understanding what you do as a business, and then now figuring it out as to what partnerships work for us as a business. Not every opportunity that comes by is yours for the taking or for the business to take. You have to look at the person or the partnerships that you're getting involved with and ask yourselves, do they speak to the value that we are speaking in the market? Are they targeting, similar target? Do we have similar target market? markets, do they have similar values in terms of how they operate, how they run the business, and then just going into now understanding then what is this partnership, or what are these networks supposed to give for us as a business. As a startup, of course, credibility is very, very important. So you want to want to build up on that. So you need to ask yourself, what partnerships are going to help us do this? And just to even loop in the previous conversation on, getting into markets and different markets, you don't have to go and set up a whole business as yourself. You can partner with people there who already know the groundwork, they understand that market. So who would that person be in that location that you are targeting that would ideally help you set up, and you don't have to go through Square or Square A again. Yeah, so you have to ask yourself, what is this partnership, or what are these networks supposed to do for me? Am I looking to build credibility? Am I looking to expand my reach, and most importantly, even after all this, is always formalize agreements, with partnerships or with these networks that you are making. It's good to have all those informal conversations, but always remember, I find most founders tend to forget that we are excited about, rolling things out very quickly without considering what would be the effect of that, what's the risk of that. So perhaps sitting down and formalizing and even having an external or a third eye view to that engagement is perhaps very important. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Lois. And I like how Emily, you also put it in terms of you also do need to do a bit of homework in terms of setting up the systems and structure, so that by the time you're leveraging a lot of those other partnerships, things on board. And I'd like to ask the same question to Richard Monjohi. Given iLab's experience in working with the technology firms and also working with startups, what role or do you see partnerships actually play in helping to scale startups and businesses from your experience with iLab?
Great. So just a quick sort of the quick trappings or sort of the quick gains that you get from being in that ecosystem. You get partners who are credible. So for example, if you're looking for financial institutions, so there are always these financial institutions who are asking us, who are the sort of ripe startups that we can work with. And I think Paping is one example that we were able to incubate and has been one of the biggest success stories of the iBiz incubation space. Secondly, the expertise. So from partners like your technology providers. So is it your Huawei? Is it your AWS for cloud systems? Is it Microsoft for software? Because already we have an existing partnership as an institution, but then we can also leverage on the same and be able to give you as an SME that space to be able to prove that concept and use those technologies, then pivot and become a fully fledged business. Third is the expertise. We have a very vibrant environment. So from the students to investors or startups that are looking to use that tech space to be able to grow their businesses. So we provide all this within the institution. And I think that is the same that happened in Silicon Valley. Were it not for the existence of MITs, your Stanford universities, then a lot of these technologies would never have gotten to where they were. Bill Gates, he benefited because he was living next to a university. So you're able to provide that ecosystem that someone is able to test the system, but also be able to use the technology and the infrastructure within the institution, and then be able to go into market.
Yeah, and I think that's a good lesson for all of us in terms of, even as you look for partners to work with, as you look for accelerators, spaces or incubators, or even investors, there's also way more value even beyond the cash that's normally injected into the business. So I'm sure even somebody, for example, Jazari, to tell you perhaps the extra value that they give you beyond just giving you a check. Being able to leverage that expertise goes a very, very long way. Yeah, and even before I go to my next question for Bet, I think this conversation of partnerships reminds me of one of the biggest partnerships we've seen in the recent past was between Microsoft and OpenAI. So they really didn't acquire the business, but perhaps they did, of course, invest, I think, almost 6 billion. But ideally, a lot of it was also not really giving away any of the IP. And they've been able to leverage that partnership to be able to help scale Microsoft, not just being that traditional enterprise tech company, but now it's known for AI and other things. Yeah, but that was just a side note. My next question for Beth would be in regards to building the A team. That's in terms of team culture. What does it take to actually build a team to get you where you want to go as a business? And what role does actually the team actually play in helping you scale? Can you do that without a team? How is culture really important? It's just one of those things people talk about.
Thanks, Jesse. I'll start with the culture. For the first 5 years of your business, culture may not be as important because you're probably one of the only employees, or you're quite few, depending on the scale of your business. But after that, culture becomes significantly one of the most important things. And even if you become a corporate, even if you become a unicorn, culture will always stand out. You've seen the Apple culture, you've seen different companies, you've seen Dell, you've seen General Electric. They still have a big deal about culture. So it's always a big deal. But for smaller companies, when you're starting, how do you get to set up the A team? So you have your startup, you have your business, you don't have enough money to pay a senior consultant or senior exec because I like to think about it this way. If they're that sharp, then probably a bigger company has them. And this is always the bigger problem with us startups. You can never afford the talent that you really want. So in our case, I know for other people it was different, is that it took a long time to really create a team that we could work with and scale with. A lot of the guys that now have managerial status in our company or quite senior actually started with us as being consultants, and we started springing off ideas of them. So you'll get your first employees as a business. Most of them might be new to the job market, might be the first time working. That's totally fine. But as you grow, you start realizing that you require some specific expertise. You might require more devs. If you're a tech-based business, you might require senior consultants. So for us, what started happening is we really started from where we were at iLab. We started partnering with so many people. We different voices in different careers, and we'd always be friendly and even spring off ideas of them and ask them, hey, I know you have maybe 10, 15 years experience in HR at Safaricom, but how do you guys deal with this problem? So slowly we formed those friendships, and after some time, they started full-time consultancies with us because we could afford it. And then slowly after that, some of them even joined our teams. And that was what we were able to do. If we went ahead and started trying to employ people from these big firms or very experienced people from the start, of course, we wouldn't have been able to afford it. But the fact that they worked with us slowly, from question-based to being consultants to being even full-time guys coming in, it really helped also build our culture. So at Papink, we really have a culture where we work in teams. We don't like to have a strong hierarchical organizational structure. We simply split up into projects and teams, and this has really helped us to be more vibrant and quite fast in terms of even pushing out products. Yeah.
And I'd like to thanks. And I'd like to ask Mario now. Now from a point of view of an investor, and I know those are conversations you probably have with a lot of your startups in terms of the team. How important is that to you? And also maybe a bit of advice also to some of the founders here. If you can't afford to pay somebody, do you give them shares? Will that expand your cap table too high, or what's the advice around that? Because I know those are discussions a lot of people have as founders.
Yeah, I think team is very important, the team you have, because you are as good as the team you have and what you are able to attain. I have worked outside the VC space, in the startup space, and I think the observation there, sometimes you are tempted to overhire at the top level. I know VCs will come and tell you, we need this position, we need this position, we need this position. But before you get those positions, you need to look at your cash flow. You need to look at sustainability. We have seen a lot of startups hiring today and firing tomorrow. So that should not be the case. So I think it's to look at what do you want to attain for now? What are the goals that are in this season, and what skill set do we need for this season? And getting that. Of course, not letting go of foundations like governance, things, the foundations that you are setting for tomorrow. So it's weighing what skill set do you need now, depending on the goals and the milestones you need to achieve. Do you need to hire full-time roles? Do you need to engage consultants? I know there are a lot, in fact, there are a lot of great university students who are looking for fellowships for 1 year. Can you use such resources? For example, if you are looking for a business analyst, for example, to deal with the data that Richard was talking of, we have amazing graduates who are looking for jobs, or people who are looking for a fellowship or internship, but of course remunerate them. So as much as VCs really emphasize on having a team, because we know without a team, you cannot attain the results, what options do you have instead of going off the large scale hiring left, right, and center? How do you manage that and get the right resources for what you need?
And you know, maybe something also has not been mentioned here. Also, the fact that we also live in an amazing time where technology has gone to such a place where actually some of those roles, perhaps that you are going to hire a full-time person, some of that you can actually have the tools to be able to do that yourself as a founder. You have Canva that will help you with, you know, designing presentations and things like that, and designing social media posts and even scheduling. You've got ChatGPT that can help you draft your proposals and business plans and other things. So really, we live at an amazing time where you actually do have the possibility of having a solo founder, solo startup. But of course, that does not negate the fact that sometimes to build something actually really amazing and big, you actually do need to bring in, you know, diverse perspectives to that. Yeah, otherwise, I'd like to go to Q&A. So please, I know some of you have been typing some of your comments, but they are not direct questions. So please type in a direct question and perhaps mention who you want that question addressed to. Okay. So please just type in your questions here, and we'll try to address them. And also just mention who it is that you want to address that question to. Yeah. Otherwise, if we're still here, please just go to the reactions tab at the bottom of your screen and give me a reaction. We see whether people are still here. You can do this guy here, tada, or clap, or thumbs up. Yeah, otherwise, but you guys have been amazing. I'm liking all the comments and the discussions happening. Again, even the panelists very engaged, really enjoying these conversations. So I'm waiting for your Q&A. In the meantime, let me try and scroll to the top to see if there's any other question that was mentioned earlier that I missed.
I think there are questions in the Q&A. You can check them.
All right. Okay. So, sorry, I don't see that technology. Yeah. 1 second. Oh, I've seen it. Awesome. Okay. Cynthia, I love that question. Are grants a myth? Sorry, Cynthia, maybe you can also explain further. What do you mean in terms of whether they're a myth? Do they help businesses grow, or are actually people given grants? Yeah, but anyway, if anyone wants to take that also, please feel free.
I think I can take
I
it
don't,
up.
Marion, yeah, what's your perspective on grants?
Yeah,
And where are they needed? Maybe we can answer that.
Yeah, I think grants are not a myth. I have seen people apply for grants and get the grants. But however, it depends why you want the grant, because you'll find most grants have a cause. And if you look at the SDGs, is it health, is it education, is it climate? How, in your business, for example, if I own a hospital, why would I want a grant? Am I working with communities? Am I giving, what target market am I dealing with? So it depends with what type of business you have. What are you going to use this grant for? There are grants for research and development. You'll find even technical grants. For example, you have a business and you can't be able to get what are they called? A system. Is it an EMR? EMR is hospital management system. You want to introduce tech. There are people who will get technical grants for that. So it really depends on what space you are in, where you want the grant, and getting a foundation that matches or aligns with what you are looking for. Yeah.
Maybe just to add to what Marion has said, let me give an interesting example. Remember M-Pesa, it was funded by it was almost like a grant that was given to Vodafone, and they sort of won a challenge from the UK government, the development partner, and that is what helped them pilot M-Pesa within the ecosystem. And when they piloted it and they saw the opportunity that was in that market, as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah. Wonder what happened to that Kenyan that had built it. That has never been paid. Anyway, that's a controversial one. But yeah, I think grants do have a specific purpose. Let me give my own personal example. For example, so in one of my other hats, also about 3 years ago, founded a health tech startup called Diagnosoft Healthcare. And we actually did win a grant, and the purpose of that grant was very specific. It was actually to do clinical trials for what we aim to achieve with our startup. And again, the reason being that at that point of time, very rarely would a VC or other kind of profit-oriented investor be willing to put money into doing things like clinical trials, because those are research-based and they also add to the body of knowledge. So again, you can check out WYLDE Grow Africa. They fund or do grants also for startups within the health care space, in case you're looking around grants around that space. But I'm sure there are also others out there. Yeah. So when it comes to whether it's funding social either social enterprise or social activities that have to do with perhaps SDGs, or looking around research-based sort of like ideas, again, grants where they actually go the longer mile. Because a lot of times by the time you're getting a grant, you're not sure whether this is actually going to translate to fully to a business. So you're better off going for a grant and not for investment funds. But then again, also you have to be careful not to get into that trap, because I do know a lot of startups that go from grant to grant, but they have not grown. They're not going anywhere. Yeah, so you have to be careful not to get into that trap. Otherwise, I mean, if it's for you, you just want to take that grant money and eat it, again, you'll have to answer to whoever it is that's giving you those funds. Yeah. Let me see. Another question. What were some things you looked at when it comes to circles? Are guarantors a factor? Asking this for us who don't necessarily find guarantors in circles easily. Yeah, Bet, because you mentioned circles. Yeah.
Wow, I think that's a really, really good question. Shockingly, it is one of the pain points of using SACCOs. And the bigger problem is, I think there's a generational gap in SACCOs. Our parents and people slightly older than that who are in the civil service, NGOs and organizations heavily used SACCOs. Any group below 30, they are not into SACCOs, they've not been able. So what I would suggest is get into a SACCO that is a bit more vibrant and young. I'll be honest, a lot of us e-commerce guys are in Kimisitu, and the SACCO has also quite really pushed, and the management has been trying to push to get a lot of young tech people. So if I would have joined any SACCO like Steamer or any other company SACCO that maybe everyone was mature, it would be very hard me presenting my case. But the fact that I'm in a SACCO that a lot of people, we're in the same age group, they understand your business, they understand what you're trying to do, then it's a very easy conversation to have. So what I'd advise is select a circle that has a younger base, and that's quite hard. There are a couple of them out there, and there are very many that also are now focusing on younger base of people. Yeah.
All right, thanks. Hope that answered your question on the circles. The next one, we have Ali Walter, founder and executive director at Kings of Kings Multi-Investment and Consultancy Firm. So how can a private sector company in Uganda get agro-processing funding line of Nutrition Business Network? So I guess that has to do with, in Uganda being able to access funding. I don't know whether anyone here has experience within the Ugandan market or does have colleagues or friends that have operated there. Maybe you can give advice to Ali around, even generally around access funding for such kind of businesses. Maybe I'd give that to either Lois or Marion. Lois, you want to take that?
Right, just I couldn't quite catch the question.
Okay. Yeah. So his question is around accessing funding for his business. He's in agro processing. So what kind of funding he's supposed to look for? Advice around that.
All right, I think Marion is at a better place to answer that, given that she's in the VC world. I would not be doing it justice if Marion is here, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm struggling to understand his
all right.
business. So sorry. I'm struggling to understand his business, but I think yes, there are so many VCs and investments opportunities in Kenya, but I believe also in Uganda as well. So I think one is analyzing what stage is his business at? Is he looking to start? Has he started? Working and having conversations. I think probably look into Uganda, people who have already invested or have gotten funding in your line of business, and try and see how they are accessing that. But I would first want to understand the stage of the business, and then you look what kind of funding is suitable for you. Is it, angel investors? Is it what kind of funding, or is it, I think it's understanding where are you right now? What are you looking to do? What kind of funding are you looking for? And then there's a lot of information nowadays online, and probably he can also side chat me. I can just, if that is okay, I can give my contacts and then I can understand it better, so that we give a specific advice on that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, for example, I can imagine within the processing sector, if, for example, you want to scale, you've already started and you want to scale, your output is perhaps 100,000 tons of whatever it is you're producing, and then now you want to double that. So that means some level of asset financing. Again, beyond investment from certain investors like PE and VC, you also do have banks that provide credit for that. You do see that happening a lot, given the fact that again, you already have steady cash flows. So at the end of the day, why do you need to inject more people into your business, whereby you could just be able to get a loan and that will be able to help you scale your production further? And again, it's something sometimes I know a lot of founders jump towards getting investments and giving out equity. But then again, if you don't need to, credit can still be able to give you that same value, because if you have great cash flows, then really there's no need going into that investment from external parties. Then we have another question from Alberta, in terms of did an input credit scheme work to scale your business? I'm saying this because cash flow problems are wild in this economy. Also, what tech solutions exist for credit management, short of partnering up with a bank? Sorry, I also don't get that either. I don't know if anyone has understood what his question was. on credit scheme, and also tech solutions existing for credit management. All right. Again, maybe you can just type and explain that further. Then we can be able to try and answer. The next one, what operational strategies should one put in place to scale a product-based business? That's a good question. I don't know who wants to take that. Marion, I see you are typing.
Yeah,
You want to answer that?
I've worked in a startup where we were dealing with products. And I think the one thing that came out strongly is, with product is, do you have the product market fit? Is your product, have you tested it, in the market? For product, you also have to be very, very sensitive to the feedback you receive in the market. I think one pitfall I have seen is starting. You do the prototype, you don't go for feedback, and you round, which is usually a pitfall because now you are getting feedback when you have already put in a lot of money investing on the product. So you really need to be very, very clear that is this what the users are looking for? Are you able to get a prototype and work with partners? I know partners like, but now AMREF is in the health tech space. Partners like AMREF are able to work with you and just see, ask in the market, is this the product that you wanted? How do we improve? Get feedback. I would insist on feedback before investing millions of dollars into the product. And then the other thing is you have the product. How many units do you manufacture? Do you go manufacture 1,000 units first, or how many units do you start with? We are looking at what losses so that you don't go into severe losses. You have 1,000 units and you have gotten feedback that you need to adjust. So for product, I would chat feedback, talk to the user. You cannot get tired of engaging users, getting feedback, and you have to be very, very accessible to receiving the feedback and going back and working on the product because products are capital intensive and it's time, R&D, just get it right, go back, come back and work with partners who can work along the way with you. That's the experience I got from working on startups in the product space.
Yeah, thanks, Marian. Yeah, so remember, don't fall in love with your product. Fall in love with the customer and the need that they have. Next question, Jose Maria. Is there a feeling of mistrust or difference in expectations between African VCs and African founders? With many VCs coming up in Africa, why is it hard to scale up or exit? Could you give an example of some common pitfalls or behaviors that you have seen in founders in Africa and should be avoided? I like that last part as well. Who wants to go with that? Who wants to answer that? Again, I see a question around VCs. So Marian, of course, and Beth, perhaps you can go first.
Yeah, so I know Marion is mostly on the VC side. I'd probably answer this coming from the founder side. One is that for the VC-backed companies I know that have closed and failed, a very large percentage is not run by Kenyans, so they do not have a very good idea of the market landscape. Let's be honest with that. So clear that one. Now, the very good ideas that were started by some of our partners and colleagues got VC-backed and failed is that they had a very good idea, but they needed to understand how to also put the VC at arm's length in terms of letting their model develop organically in the right way. So you find a very good firm, they had an idea, they were growing well in the market. The VC comes in and tells them, hey, you guys are so good. Let's take this now and scale it up and take it to West Africa. I remember we had a similar argument. I'll tell you how we were dropped by a VC when we were in discussions. The VC came to us and told us that, hey, look, you guys are a very good e-commerce gift store. but we don't think that's able to scale in Africa. How many people will buy gifts in Africa? So what we want to do is change you guys into a marketplace. So you're gonna be called Pink Marketplace, and you're gonna sell everything. Well, we quickly realized that with that resulted into us losing our customer base and losing most of the people who would be interested in us. So at the end of the day, we stood our ground and said, I think this product is very good for gifting and nothing else. Maybe something else would work with a different company. So I feel for very many founders, they also need to stand their ground on the idea and discuss with the VC and tell them, this, we want to scale, but we want to scale the idea like this. But if you let the VC take over, remember at the end of a couple of years, what the VC wants to do is exit. And in an organic African market and in an economy like Kenya, an exit may not be the best thing for some of these companies, especially if it becomes a priority. Yeah.
All right, thanks. Yeah, Marion, you wanted to add on?
Yeah, and I think on to the previous point of product, look at the logistics, supply chain, turnaround time of delivery, the question on operation issues that are facing a product. Look at supply chain, logistics, inventory, and all that aspect. I think to this question on a mistrust between VCs and founders, I would say that before 2022 backwards, there was a lot of funds were available in the market and VCs would just invest, but things have really changed. In fact, there was a time I was raising funds myself last year and an investor, VC, told me, Marion, we no longer spray and pray. So things have changed, the VCs have changed. Even VCs themselves now have realized that you have to focus on paths to profitability, paths to sustainability. So I think times have really shifted because of global dynamics and economic dynamics have really changed. I would not say it's such a mistrust, but I really, really agree with the points that Beth have raised.
Yeah, the good times are over for for VC funding. But then again, it also helps people focus their businesses. And like we say, all economies are booms and busts. So definitely, if you're able to wait this out and ride the next wave, it's going to work out well. Maybe another question, Beth. You started your company while in uni. How did you navigate the challenges of funding? Is it scary while you are so young?
Yeah, to some extent, that's a nice question. It's quite scary, but also it's exciting because to put it in place, we started in 2013, 2012. I was a BBIT student in Strathmore. So we had two options, either to graduate and try look for a job. And the companies we used to want to work for were KPMG, PwC, or Safaricom if you could get lucky. And slowly we realized that it was very hard to get to these places. So we decided, hey, why don't we just wing it? So as a student, I feel, look, starting a business at any stage, even when you're 50, even when you're big, is scary. But as a student, I feel that you have a little less to lose, because at the end of the day, if your business fails, the worst you'll be is jobless, but at the end of the day, you can start again. And in any case, being a student means that at that point in time, your career hasn't really expanded. So if I could do it any other way, I'd not start in second year, second sem, I'd start in first year. I think I'd have gained a lot more traction by then. So as a student, if you're really thinking about starting a business, do it now. Do it now before the other responsibilities come into play, before there's a lot of pressure from other sources. So right now is the best time, and it's scary, but also it's quite exciting.
All right, thanks. Oh, Alberta, I see you've clarified on the credit, invoice discounting and things like that. First of all, maybe let me just give you some advice also from my own perspective. You know, sometimes I think doing in business in Kenya can also, character develop you quite a bit. So again, you really need to choose your customer well. If you're afraid of taking credit because of, or you're taking a loan, for example, based on credit from customers that you normally provide services for credit, and you're afraid that they won't pay you back, then you're in no business actually taking that loan, or you better opt out of giving those customers that level of credit. if those are, or even the other option, of course, is choosing your customer as well, so that you can actually be able to characterize them quite well. So again, it's, I think some of those things, I mean, those are options that are available, but you really need to understand your customer very, very well. Otherwise, you will be character developed very hard. Otherwise, I see Michelle has come, and she probably is hinting to us that we are reaching the top of the hour. I think what I'll just ask some of our panelists is to give us perhaps a parting shot as we close this session and hand this back over to Michelle. So we'll start over with Marion, we'll move on to Lois, Richard, and finish with Beth.
Yeah, I think, thank you so much. This has been a very informative panel, and thank you also for all the questions. I think my parting shot would be that it is doable. Entrepreneurship is doable. It is possible. I have seen a lot of questions on why we don't get funding. I think let us get how we do our narrative right. Be very, very good to identifying what solution, what problem are you trying to solve, and what solution do you have for the problem. And start with the problem you want to solve and then come up with the solutions. And really, it's about the user of your product. It's not about you. It's not about a beautiful thing. It's about the user. And when you have all that right, funding is available. There is a lot of connections. I think we need to get in a lot of networking. There are a lot of networking engagements in Nairobi where you do not need to pay. So I think being on the reach out and being in the right conversations, you'll be able to realize these opportunities.
All right, thank you. Richard?
Okay, so for me, it's, do you have the right product? Are you continually appealing to the customers or your market? Do you have the right business model? How adaptable and reliable are you as a startup or as a business? Then what problem are you solving, either to the consumer or to the market? And then finally, develop and retain talent, because that is usually a very, very tricky space. Then, as I say, fail fast, fail forward, stay agile.
Lois?
Great. Not to repeat anything that has been said, just to add on to it, don't do this alone. The founder seat is very critical, and it can be very overwhelming and very confusing. So leverage on, the people in the industry, leverage on, people like Marion, ourselves as well. Just get feedback into what it is that you are doing, get a third bird's eye view into your business, and most importantly, be part of an ecosystem as well. Yeah, so that will give you a lot of motivation, a lot of, and it would be such an eye opener, being just part of the larger ecosystem in whichever industry that that you are. So yeah.
All right, thank you. Beth?
For me, it's for anyone out there who is starting a business or thinking about starting one. Get started. There's never any late time to start, and getting started is the first step. Number two for me is, don't let anyone tell you what's the innovation. This isn't new. This has never been done before. Even when we were starting e-commerce in 2014, I remember someone telling me, no, that's already been done before. Amazon is doing it so well. We need a new innovation. We need something crazy. So no, even if you're starting a hardware, a petrol station, Kenya is a very young business very young country in terms of small businesses. There's a space for every single business. And lastly, focus on that one idea. I know for very many businesses, once you get your third year, you're like, oh, now I'm doing real estate, but I'll also be doing accommodation on the side to build up. No, 90% of the billionaires in this world are billionaires because of one idea. They focused on that idea and it generates revenue for all the rest of theirs. So if you focus on your one business, it will grow you to the extent you'll be able to try other things as hobbies. So focus. That's for me. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, thank you to the panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. You guys have done an amazing job. Just to wrap it up, need not the solution, customer not the product. Don't do this alone. And I'm going to plug in Startinev. Again, we run a lot of programs and events tailored towards founders and startups. So please follow us on social media and also on our website. Just so that you can also be able to not do this alone. And again, getting started, don't be afraid. Just put the first foot forward, and for sure things will work out right. And again, I've been happy to be the moderator for today's session, and I do hope that you have learned quite a lot from this panel of experts. And do hope that you're able to also continue the conversation and reach out to iLab Africa if you need any more information from some of what the panelists have mentioned. And I'm sure they'll be happy to relay that information with us. Yeah, others, thank you and do have yourselves a lovely rest of the day. And I'd like to hand this over back to Michelle. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much for that wonderful discussion. Maybe I can clap like this and just say that's been an awesome discussion, just especially on the state of startups, SMEs, what it takes to be a successful startup. And you know, the thing I find interesting is to touch on some of the points you've mentioned. Believe in your idea and make sure that your idea fits the market. I think that's something that's been said over and over again. It was very interesting to learn that venture capitalists and also different investment partners do require different things. So I feel like it's been such an insightful discussion. I'm hoping we can have another one. Thank you so much to Jesse. I reached out to Jesse. I found Jesse and I have known each other since I think 4 years ago when Startinev was starting, and we've been able to grow, and I've seen the ecosystem grow, especially with Startinev. So please feel free to reach out to him after the webinar. Richard, thank you so much. Richard is our senior manager at iLab Africa. He leads and guides the data science department. Asante Sana. Marion, thank you so much for revealing yourself. So many insights from the venture space. I truly appreciate, and we will be looking forward to hosting you in more webinars. Lois, thank you so much from WYLDE International. Thank you so much for the insights you have shared, as well as Ayrton. Ayrton was our startup, and I think now, even without much ado, I think I would like now for us to just see, as I close, I'd like us to just watch 2 videos, one from iBiz Africa and one from WYLDE International. So I think we can take it away, Robert, the team on the back end, as we close.
My name is Lucy Wanjau. I am the CEO, Target Mart Limited. Target Mart Limited is an FMCG distribution business, currently franchising and distributing for Zara Cosmetics in Kenya. So the challenge was the business, really. You know, I happened to grow a business over the last 5 years. And then one day, not one day, like over a period of time, I was just having challenges. One day it's consignment clearing, another day is HR, another day is a different thing. And I got to a point where I was just telling my husband, I'm ready to just close the doors and go home and raise my children. And then I started interacting with the Sandbox experts after that. During one of my interactions, I interacted with Kirinya, one of the directors of WYLDE, who introduced and recommended that I attend Scalarizer. I have learned how to identify the customer and who and how to speak to the customer. I mean, not just the customer, but how do then you get to your target market? How do you speak to them? What language are they going to hear? And so that has led to, you know, smaller resources going to the right direction and reaching the right client and bigger impact with less resources. I attended a one-day workshop with other entrepreneurs conducted by the best trainers, I believe, very clear on, strategy being a response and not a reaction. And going through Scalerizer helped me be very specific on what are the pain points and being prepared. It would be very difficult to say I'm at 10%, 20% implementation of everything I needed to do. I now have a fully implemented ERP system, and I have an outsourced HR person who has helped and trained the team on onboarding, managing resources, being HR, contracting, having specific job descriptions and performance reviews every so often for the team. Have I tried others? Maybe at the time of struggling and thinking how you can get yourself out of the problem, I tried thinking of probably setting up a board of directors. And so I had done this course for board readiness, and then Scalerizer made it even different by showing me not just getting other people on board who might just struggle as much without systems, and it was simpler just setting up the systems first, which is interesting because the systems have been able to resolve all those issues that we were having. I would very much recommend Scalerizer to business owners. So would I still do it 5 years in? I would. And even better then, when you already have built, and the issue is probably laying down the structures. So it still works for both, whether you're starting the business and you want to come up with a strategy, identify what you need to invest in to achieve the overall goal that you're trying to achieve. I would recommend it.
Wow. So thank you very much. Please let's give them a round of applause. So just a bit about the Scalerizer program by WYLDE International. It will be starting on the 6th of June. So do mark your calendar if you are interested in scaling your business and being able to identify your market, because it's important for you to attract the right customers. So thank you very much. Please ensure to email Robert at WYLDE International. Robert, I think you can put your email on the chat for them to be able to access the training. And next up, we have just an alumni story for Pop Inc., one of our startups that you just watched. So enjoy.
So my name is Ayaton Bet. I'm currently the director at Pop Inc. Pop Inc. is an online gift store that operates within Kenya and starting to cross over to East Africa. We deliver gifts and flowers to people all over the country. We also have a bit of us that does a bit of corporate gifting. Yeah, that's a bit about Pop Inc. here. So we started, officially we started around 2013. So this is ironically the time we also incubated at iBiz. Yeah, so 2013 is when we started out here. We had about iBiz as students. It has just started out. I think they hadn't even gotten their first cohort in. So we had started doing our business mostly in an unconventional way, selling to students over there. And someone told us, maybe you should try get to iBiz Africa. So we pitched. They used to have a pitch Friday. So every Friday we used to pitch. And the first time we pitched, we didn't make it. But they told us to wait until we had probably done a holiday and to really understand how we could stretch this gifting. So after finishing off with one holiday, we came back to them, showed them our numbers, pitched again, and this time we actually got in. So that was our story getting into iBiz. Yeah. With iBiz, we were able to leverage technology. There was all this noise about you guys should create a website and push a website. So we created our first website there. It was very basic compared to what we've been able to do right now. But actually that's what set us on the path. And now our website is one of the biggest features about us. So we've gotten a lot of this, I can say, income over the years, and it's what we're now leveraging to give our clients better service. So we've really continued to invest heavily in technology. We have a very advanced website. We have super tracking for our customers. We do a lot of crazy things with tech. People are able to send video messages. So this sort of thing has given us a bit of an edge. So we're just leveraging on technology. I think a lot of people in Nairobi are trying to do personalized gifts. There's all this rave all over the world about personalized gifting, but most people don't look at the process of creating a personalized gift. So at Papink, you can literally just go to the website, order your personalized gift. Now, there's always a question customers ask: how will I know how it looks when it's personalized? So what we were able to do was leverage on already tech, and people can create previews of the product with their names, so they can actually personalize on the site, see how it's going to look, play around with the font, and then order the product. So by the time a customer is ordering, they don't get any shocks. Whatever they saw, they've been able to change their personalization. So it allows the customer to become their own designer and bring it in. So this is such a big step if you compare it to a couple of years back when customers used to order. So they keep telling you, change this font, change this font. So you start having to just personalize one mug. You have a conversation for a full day. Right now, the customer does it and it's almost instant. One of the other challenges that breaks businesses is financing. I mean, that's across board for everyone. We've really had to, so when we finished iBiz, obviously there's a support, there's investors that come through, but what they don't talk about is some businesses, especially like us, never get investors as well. So as compared to the big tech businesses that really completed high fundraisers and everything, we unfortunately did not get, but fortunately for us, it ended up working out better because we were able to find ways to organically grow. So slowly, like haba na haba, pole pole, grow your business. We had to think of ingenious ways to make more money, save more money. And years later, you end up realizing that maybe the companies that got very heavy funding earlier, they've all started collapsing, and the companies that actually organically grew are the ones that will keep growing for the next few years. I feel that one of the biggest effects we have, even to the other incubators in iBiz Africa, is that it's possible to do it to some extent. I wouldn't say we are super successful, but I'll say we are surviving for the last 10 years. So we might not be getting a lot of things right, but we've gotten a couple of things right. The last thing is, I know it's a bit cliche, but don't give up. Very many entrepreneurs actually don't get to actually actualize their businesses because they start an idea, it's really good, they spend some time on it, they hear about a better idea or something someone is making more money on, they leave their idea or they start now changing their idea to sort of get more money. So they sort of give up on whatever they had hopes on and keep changing. So we are looking at expanding into different towns. So I know, and maybe just a hint, we have Mombasa coming up, we have Nakuru, we have Eldoret, we have Kisumu, and we might also have Kampala coming up. So market expansion is just what we're looking at. We'll do it slow, we'll do it in our way. So don't expect anything like big tech where we have 10 branches tomorrow. No, we'll do it small. And as we go to every branch, Papink has done what it's done well in Nairobi. But people in Nairobi are different to people in Mombasa. So as we go to those branches, we will create a Papink that works for them, not imposing a Papink that worked in Nairobi.
Wow, thank you very, very much. Just by maybe just the last reaction to that video, even as I say thank you very much to all of you for attending. Thank you so much for staying with us from the beginning until the end of the webinar. There's a feedback form that has been shared on the webinar. Please share your feedback on that form so we can know what topics you'd like to listen to, who you'd like us to connect you to, and we will be there. iBiz Africa Strathmore University is very glad to have partnered with WYLDE. At iBiz Africa, we have co-working space. So if you're looking for a place to work, we have co-working spaces. For students, it's 9,000 shillings, and for startups, it's 12,000 shillings, or SMEs. So please feel free to visit us at iBiz Africa. We're at Strathmore University on the 5th floor, and we will be here to support you. Thank you very much also, even in my closing remarks, to the WYLDE International team. Robert and your team, thank you very much. We've been able to work on this, and we're hoping we can bring you more webinars. So please do fill that feedback form that is being shared on the chat so that we can know what to bring you. For now, I don't want you to die of hunger. I'm seeing some people have left, and I just want you to enjoy your lunch, but also think about the insightful topics and feel free to reach out to us at adminibiz@strathmore.edu, and we will be sure to respond to you if you're looking for incubation. We have a Pitch Friday session whereby if you're a startup or an SME, you can come and pitch your business idea, and we will be able to help you with the right mentorship, coaching, and training. So with that, I wish you all well, and do have a good afternoon. Bye.